So you're a parent who's noticed that your young kids tend to get sick more often than adults, and you're wondering if this is a concern. In this video, I'll explain why that happens. As a naturopathic physician and a mother to young kids myself, dealing with childhood illnesses is something I navigate regularly, both in my practice and at home. What's important to remember is that children's immune systems are still developing, and frequent illnesses are a natural and even essential part of their growth. So let's jump in. Let's start with one of the main reasons kids tend to get sick more often than adults, and this is that their immune systems are still developing. So unlike adults who have fully matured immune systems, children's immune systems, especially their adaptive immunity, is still developing. And this is why, particularly under the age of 5, kids tend to get more frequent illnesses than adults. In the first few years of life, their bodies are still learning how to respond to various pathogens and environmental factors. It's important for them to be exposed to various pathogens to build a strong and resilient response for the future. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the immune system, particularly the two primary arms of the immune system. So we have our innate response and our adaptive immune system response. Now, the innate immune system acts as our first line of defense, and it produces very nonspecific and broad responses to pathogens. The adaptive immune response is slower to activate initially, but it provides more targeted and specific response to certain pathogens and provides long-lasting immunity thanks to immunological memory. So while children are still young, they're very much heavily reliant on innate immune responses. Again, those broad, systemic, and nonspecific responses to pathogens and infections, while their adaptive immune responses and that immunological memory is still developing through each new exposure to a new pathogen. So talking about exposure, it's this frequent exposure that trains the young child's immune system to learn how to properly adapt to the multitude of viruses and bacteria in our environment. Young kids are constantly being exposed to new pathogens, whereas the older children or adult immune systems have been around the block and understand what's in our environment and have learned how to adapt to many of these pathogens. And research has shown that early exposure to a variety of microorganisms is essential for children to develop long-lasting immunity and immune responses. This ultimately leads to children getting fewer illnesses over time as they grow into older children and then, of course, as adults. Now, let's talk about some of these generalized symptoms such as fever, fatigue, and congestion. Kids are relying more on innate immune responses. This tends to provide that robust symptomatic expression. And these are tools that the body uses to recover and heal. So let's take fever, for example. When the body initiates a fever, the hypothalamus raises our internal body temperature to make the environment inhospitable for pathogens to survive, thrive, and replicate. Fever also enhances our own immune system responses and development for young children. So it's not only strengthening our own defenses, but also weakening the defenses of the pathogens that are causing the current infection. Likewise, let's take congestion. So when we have those kids with the constant runny noses and phlegmy coughs, it's that mucus that is trapping the pathogens, irritants, and allergens, and then expelling them up and out of the body through coughing and sneezing. So this is allowing the body to deal with that current infection and also detoxify the body in the process. Fatigue is also not just another sign that our child is feeling unwell, but a wise signal from the body to slow down and hopefully, in a way, even force our child to rest so that the energy can be focused on healing and recovering instead of less important tasks. Fighting off illnesses and repairing tissue takes a lot of energy and resources. So fatigue and tiredness is trying to support the body to rest, to engage in these important activities. Now, again, these symptomatic illnesses are more visible in our younger children than in older children or adults, because adults typically have a more experienced immune system that can handle multiple infections without even having to produce symptoms. So they handle these asymptomatically. Now, there's a little bit of a nuance here, and on my channel, you'll hear me talk about the importance of our internal terrain supported by our foundations of health. So in the terrain versus germ theory perspective, as long as our internal terrain is healthy and balanced, supported by wholesome diet, hydration, rest, minimal stress, physical activity, all of those foundations, then it allows us to be more resilient to being overcome by pathogens and infections, or recover more easily and smoothly once we are exposed to them. Now, while this is especially true for older children and adults whose immune systems are more mature, this also, of course, benefits young children in how quickly they can recover or how their bodies can be supported in their natural journey of developing their immune responses. But even with a very strong terrain, sometimes these frequent illnesses are just something to be expected in those early years, again, as the immune system is going through this important maturation and developmental process. So to sum it up, while it might seem like your children are getting sick all the time, remember that this is a natural and important part of their growth. Their immune systems are still learning and adapting, and these frequent illnesses are helping to build their long-term resilience. So the next time your child comes down with a cold or a fever, try to view this as a sign that their body is doing exactly what it needs to do, which is to develop, strengthen, and adapt. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with another parent who could use the reassurance that their child is developing normally. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more insights on natural health and immunity. I'll see you next time.